What is up, you guys? It is your girl Kayla, and I am back with another video about my TTC journey. As you guys can see from the title down below, today was consultation day and it went well. I was so excited with how well it went. I was so nervous going in, and from the moment she said hello, the doctor just made me feel so comfortable. It was crazy. It was like the way she treated me was almost like we'd known each other before. It was crazy. She's like, it's so great to finally meet you and see you, even though it's not in person. And I'm just like, we haven't talked before? But I just loved her energy. I was like, you're just treating me like we've known each other for so long. Like we've had such a long conversation together. And what you did worked. Like my nerves were gone. It was so great. So I was planning on showing you guys the video, but as I was going through looking over it, I realized there were just way too many personal information sensitive, like info on there that I couldn't quite get rid of and I couldn't quite get out. So thankfully, because I wasn't sure if this was going to be an issue or not ahead of time, I decided that I was going to take notes anyways. Hold on. Sorry. TV. Anyways, so I took vigorous notes because not only did I kind of have a feeling that something like this was going to happen, regardless of how much I wanted to film the consultation, I also wanted to take notes because there was information that I personally knew I would need. So yeah, I just want to come here and go get right into it, share the details with you guys while it's still fresh on my mind. My appointment was at 1 o'clock. It was 20 minutes long, and yeah, that's it. She did say that had we been able to have the consultation in person, there would have been an ultrasound at that consultation. So you guys, that's something that you're gonna wanna look out for. If you do go in person, you may have an ultrasound, and it'll be a vaginal ultrasound, which means that they'll be going inside instead of going over the skin, over the uterus, kind of like once you are pregnant. So there's that. Let's see, I have my notes here. Okay, perfect. So she started out, just introducing herself and getting to know me, and she was very prepared. She had already looked over my patient files, so she knew information, but she had more information that she wanted to know. One of the main questions that she asked, she's like, you're trying to get pregnant, like, tell me about it. And I explained to her that I've always wanted to be a mom, and I'm in a place where I'm finally stable. I have a stable atmosphere and everything's finally, better, even despite what's going on with COVID-19. And I don't see myself getting married in the near future, even though it's not that I'm like a romantic or like anti-romance or anything like that. It's just, I don't feel a desire right now to date or be with anybody. I've found that I'm actually a lot happier now that I'm single versus all the other times when I was dating. So that's one thing. But the other major thing, and I kind of downplayed it because as you guys may have experienced yourselves, I don't know, but for me, I wasn't sure what she was gonna say. But I explained that, I have endometriosis. I've had it for maybe a good 10 years now, diagnosed for 8 years, showed symptoms 2 years prior. And I was concerned about the long-term effects of it and how it's affecting my reproductive abilities. And my OBGYN shared the same thing and told me I need to start trying to conceive. And so that's why I'm here. I'm ready, and I don't want to miss my window. And so she was like, okay, that sounds good. And she did explain that with endometriosis, That is a concern because endometriosis basically does attack your reproductive capabilities. For a lot of women who have endometriosis, they never know that they have it and they don't have any issues with it. Some women who have endometriosis even experience it basically being cured by when they give birth. And then other women, they have it forever, they know about it, and just different things. So everybody's different. But in my case is where I'm aware of it, it's causing symptoms in me, and it is causing issues with my reproductive capabilities. I'm to the point where sex isn't even an option for recreation or reproduction. It's not an option. So we did get into the nitty-gritty about that. About the pain in my cervical area and why now she and my doctor and I agree that my cervix has quite possibly already attached to my other organs around there. And once I explained what I was experiencing and went into all those details, she said, she agreed. She said, it does sound like there's a higher chance than not that your cervix has attached to other organs in that area, which sounds like it, and with how much time has surpassed, it wouldn't be surprising. So that was that, and so we went into further detail about it. She had questions about my diagnosis. Since I never had a laparoscopy, I have always been concerned about whether or not I truly have endometriosis and how far along it's come or gone. Because laparoscopy, you can have a diagnosis, but the laparoscopy confirms it, and they can also sometimes go in, and if they see the endometrial tissues, they can take it out and get all that scar tissue out. And then they'll send a tissue sample to the lab for what's called a pathogenic confirmation, pathogenic diagnosis. Let me see. Yeah, pathogenic diagnosis. So what my doctor gave me was a clinical diagnosis. That means that what I was experiencing was textbook the diagnosis for endometriosis, and she was concerned at first. She thought, well, maybe it's just a heavy menstrual flow, and that is a condition in itself. But once she determined the pain and the response to it, and everything else, all the other details, she agreed that it is textbook endometriosis, which sucks. But she confirmed his diagnosis, which, thank you. I mean, it's been reconfirmed each time, but from a reproductive endocrinologist, I feel like that's probably as official as that gets. So once she did confirm that and confirm the clinical diagnosis, she then got down to the nitty-gritty. And her concern, just like the rest of ours, is that with this endometriosis, it can be causing reproductive issues. The primary issue in this case is not necessarily the endometrial tissues attaching to other organs outside the cervix, but the endometrial tissues that are inside my uterus that can be blocking my fallopian tubes. So with that concern, she did go ahead and order an HSG test. The HSG test, I will have the name hopefully written down below in the description box if I can't figure out how to put it on the screen. And yeah, so the HSG is where they insert dye into your cervix or into your uterus to basically check it out, and they get an x-ray machine that can pick up on the dye, and you can see whether or not the fallopian tubes are blocked. And so our prayer right now is that my fallopian tubes are still open. That means that if they're open, if even at least one is open, then that means that I will be able to pursue intrauterine insemination instead of in vitro fertilization, which is a lot less expensive and a lot less invasive. And she went on, and I like how she broke everything down and explained everything to me, even though I knew some of these things that she was explaining. And she did it in a way to where it wasn't insulting, like, you don't know this. It's, if you don't know, now you know. This is exactly what it is, textbook. And it was great. It was like we were having a conversation on the same level, you know? So with the IUI, she did explain with the HSG, that is our main concern, which is great because that was my main concern. It's just, I hesitate on the great part because I psyched myself out this morning by looking up everybody else's experience with the HSG, and everybody says how excruciatingly painful it is. And I do not like pain. Childbirth, for some odd reason, I'm okay with that idea, but the pain of giving of the HSG has just scared me. And I finally had to sit down and think about it. It's less than a minute of pain, of feeling like there's fire in my uterus, and then a lifetime of happiness. And that's worth it. You know, no pain, no gain. And I need this, and I knew I was gonna have this, and it is what it is. So, yeah, I'm just gonna suck it up and do it. She wants to do it once this cycle ends. And so the thing is, it has to be done after your period, but before the 11th day of your cycle. So what I'm doing right now is I'm taking my birth control. I stopped it for a few days, so now I'm back on it, and to kind of help stop the bleeding, because it has been 3, almost 4 weeks now. I do not recommend this whatsoever, but I'm doubling up on my birth control dosage for the next 3 to 4 days to stop my cycle and get it back to behaving itself. And so after that last day of bleeding, we're gonna go ahead and start tracking that. And on day 10, I'll have that HSG, which means that I'm gonna have that HSG exam within the next 2 weeks, which still scares me, but I'll be over with it, you know, get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. My best friend will be there with me, and even though she can't be in the room because it'll be in a radiation lab or x-ray lab, she'll still be with me for the appointment, so I'm not in my head. And then after that, it's what I consider smooth sailing. She gave me a long list of the different labs that I'm going to need, so bear with me. I'm going to be looking down on my paper because I wrote them all down just in case this would happen and I wouldn't have the recording to give to you guys. So the first that the first of the labs, and I'm just going to go through it, is a thyroid check. So they're going to check my thyroid, make sure it's functioning well. That is a concern since my mother and her biological mother both had thyroid issues. My mom's cousin had a thyroid issue, and my first cousin had thyroid cancer. So that is a concern. So I don't mind them checking for it. I actually don't mind them checking for any of this. The next one, they want to check to see if I'm anemic. I am anemic, but I take kale or iron supplements. I used to take iron supplements. Now I take kale supplements to balance out my anemia. And whatever I've been doing, you know, that kale has been working, because the last 2 times that I've gotten my annual blood work, my iron levels has been spectacular. The next one is German measles and chickenpox. So that MMR, rubella, you know, measles shots. Thankfully, I got a booster. Like, I got the vaccination when I was younger, but I ended up having to get a booster about 4 to 5 years ago, when I was going through my associate's degree program for medical assisting. They pumped us full of every vaccine. So they made sure I had that. So it should still be up to date. I believe it should be up to date for the next 10 years, or at least that's the last one I have to have. So that one, in that case, if I'm not up to date on that vaccination, what they'll have me do is get that shot ASAP, because you want to wait 30 days after that shot to finally start trying, if it's time for you to start trying. The next one, Let me double check because I'm going to come back to that. Let's see, there's the HSG test that we have to get done, and my blood type. They want to find out what my blood type is, even though I already know I'm O positive. I'm just going to let them know that, but they'll also get that when they do all this blood work for everything else. They're also going to do an infection screening and a vitamin D screening as well. And yeah, so that's it for the prenatal labs. And the reason why they're doing the infection screening and the vitamin D screening, I'll get to it in a moment. Well, I can tell you vitamin D right now. A lot of women are vitamin D deficient. This I did not realize. So that's that. With this list, she did tell me that since I plan on trying to conceive starting in October, I need to start taking prenatal vitamins today. I'm not going to start taking them today just because I just started my cleanse today. And if I start taking them today, it's going to be counterproductive. The cleansing pills are going to wipe anything that I put in my body out. So that's just a waste. I'm just going to start my prenatal pills on Monday. So that's that. Let's see. Okay, so a CMV. So they want to, so let's get into the sperm. We went over sperm and the source and all that other great stuff. I plan on getting my sperm from the Seattle Sperm Bank, which she highly recommended. I didn't know she was going to recommend it. I already have a donor picked out there. And so she recommended it because the Seattle Sperm Bank and California Cryo Bank, they do genetic testing on their donors. And there are certain things that we want to look for in the donor so we can avoid them. So for me, she asked me about my family's medical history. My dad had type 2 diabetes, and what else? Oh, my dad and my youngest brother both have the sickle cell trait. So even though my dad didn't have sickle cell, my little brother doesn't have sickle cell, they both carried the trait. And to the best of my knowledge, I would imagine my other siblings and I have been tested, but that's something that I'd have to double check with my mom to find out, to see if she remembers. But if not, we'll just do a genetic testing. I think my mom said it was like $65 for her to do hers. And yeah, it's not bad at all. My insurance will actually cover it, but yeah, that's fine. So you want to do the genetic testing. That way you can make sure that if you do have any abnormalities or any traits or anything like that that you carry that are maybe dormant, you can make sure that you're not picking a donor with those same traits, whether they're active or dormant. That way, if say you both have dormant traits, you guys aren't procreating with one another, or if you choose to do so, you know the risk that you're running. So even though, say I did have the sickle cell trait and my partner had the sickle cell trait, there's a 25% chance that my child will have the sickle cell trait. And to reduce the chances of that, you want to get a donor that has had genetic screening done, and you can see on there that they've been tested and they tested negative for the sickle cell trait. The next concern that she did have was a disease called CMV, and I wrote it out. Let me see. The cytomegalovirus. So it's not COVID-19. She explained that. I didn't care, but she's just like, everybody keeps asking right now. It's not COVID-19. It's just another virus that's going around, that's been happening around. Everybody has either been exposed to it or you're going to be exposed to it at some point in time. What we need to do is check my blood to see whether or not I have been exposed to it. So if they see that there's an immunity to that means I've already been exposed to it, and that's one less thing to worry about. But if my test comes back negative for immunity, then that means I've never been exposed to the CMV virus. Yeah, the CMV virus. And that means that I need to make sure that my donor has A, been tested for the CMV virus, and B, they come back negative. The concern with them coming back positive is even though they've tested positive, that means that they've experienced it and they have that immunity can still carry the live antibodies or the live virus with it, even if it is in its weakened state. And if I'm exposed to that while I'm pregnant, then that can cause a miscarriage, or it can cause severe birth defects. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. So that's why now I need to look back at my donor to see whether or not he's CMV negative or positive. Another thing that I have to look at is anemias. There are several different anemias, and there are 4 that she listed. I checked for 3 of them, but the 4th one I didn't quite know what it was when I was looking, so I didn't really pay too much attention. I knew it was some sort of anemia because of the way it sounded, but I just didn't know too much, and I was just kind of looking, and so I'm gonna have to go back through, check my donor, and see whether or not he has that anemia trait. Prayerfully he doesn't, because I really want to go with this donor, So yeah, there's that. CMV and anemias are the ones that we are looking for right now. Infection screening, that has to do with CMV. I explained that. Vitamin D deficiency, we explained that. So the next thing, once I get my, I guess this got moved a little bit. So once I get my HSG results back, my cat's moving on my desk. Once I get my HSG results back, that'll let me know whether or not I need to do intrauterine insemination, which is what we're hoping and praying for, or in vitro fertilization. If you don't know the difference between that, intrauterine insemination is much less invasive. They get the sperm, they track your cycle, all that fun stuff. They get the catheter, put it inside your uterus, and that's that. As for in vitro fertilization, they're going to have to harvest your eggs, and they're going to combine it with the sperm and grow it in the petri dish before they reimplant that into your uterine lining. And so that's the difference between those. It's much more expensive, much more invasive. She did explain, though, that with intrauterine insemination, which is what we're hoping for, I will have the choice on whether or not I would like to do a natural cycle or a medicated cycle. And right now I'm leaning towards the medicated cycle, even though that means I'm gonna have to either have a trigger shot or I'm gonna have to take Clomid, whatever, orally, I don't know. And the reason why, I'm gonna give y'all the childish reason first, because even though we're about to become moms, it doesn't mean we gotta be strict all the time. Twins run in my family, and my grandmothers were all twins. So it runs in my family, and I believe one of my grandmothers on my dad's side had 3 sets of twins. So yeah, that's it. Twins run on the family, and the rumor has it skips a generation. I don't know, but I don't know. I just feel like if I have twins, that would be so perfect. That would actually make so much sense for me to be the one of the family to have the twins, because everybody has said that I would be the one that has the twins. But so that's the funny reason why. But the actual reason why is that I'm concerned about my cycle. I have my periods, but when I don't take my medication, or my medication stops working because I build up a tolerance for it, I have periods like the one I'm in now, where I've been bleeding for the past 3 weeks. And before I was diagnosed, I was bleeding from the end of May all the way until about late October. And so if that's how my cycle behaves while I'm not on birth control, that is a concerning indicator, because that means that I may not necessarily be dropping an egg and my body's just shedding and reacting, but it may not be that I'm dropping an egg. So we'll know more once they do a follicle scan. If they even need, yeah, they'll be doing a follicle scan. So we'll know more once they do a follicle scan. We'll know. So I'll most likely opt for the medicated cycle, which is completely fine by me. If I have twins, cool. If not, cool. It only increases my chance of having twins by 5 to 10%. So it's not even that big of a difference. But speaking of birth control and my endometriosis, she wants me to continue on my birth control for the time being, and because it's going to keep my symptoms at bay. And then once it gets, oh, okay, as long as you're comfortable. After my HSG, there's going to come a point where we have a follow-up appointment, and I will get off of the birth control, and I will start taking other medications to help with the symptoms and my comfort for endometriosis. And that's what we're going to be doing while we're trying to get pregnant. And then once I'm pregnant, hopefully, prayerfully, smooth sailing from there. I just continue as I'm doing right now. So starting Monday, like I said, I will be taking the prenatal vitamins. Once I'm pregnant, I'll continue to take the prenatal vitamins. And then as soon as I give birth, she's gonna have me back on the birth control. That way we can stop the symptoms of the endometriosis. I want to recover but not be bleeding out. I don't want to have to deal with the side effects of endometriosis while I'm trying to enjoy my baby and my recovery, although you can't really enjoy your recovery. So yeah, so that is that game plan, which I thought was very interesting, to get me back on that birth control as soon as possible. Another thing that I found that was interesting, and I'm gonna have to check their website a little bit more, once everything's all good and dandy, so since I'm having this HSG test in the next 2 weeks, we'll be speaking, probably the reproductive endocrinologist and I will be speaking within the next 3 to 4 weeks about the test results. And those test results, since they'll let us know whether or not we'll be doing IUI or IVF, will determine what that conversation looks like for the trying to conceive plan, a treatment plan. So there's that. If we can move forward with the IUI or we need more IVF, it varies. I don't know. But she will have me order my sperm. She'll let me know when I need to order my sperm. And that was kind of interesting to me, because I figured, I just order my sperm, a few days before I need to be inseminated. But actually, from what she explained and how she made it sound, it seems like they actually have a place to store the sperm until I'm ready. And I thought that was really great. That is very helpful. So instead of the hecticness of waiting for the sperm, like trying to plan out the delivery with, your timing and whatnot and trying not to miss it, I can go ahead and order my sperm ahead of time so it can get here, chill out, be ready. That way, when the time comes, instead of worrying about shipping and all that last minute stuff, I can just go in and they can do what they need to do all in house. So I thought that was really cool, and that would be really ideal for me. Now, as for how much sperm I'm going to be buying, it really depends on whether I do IVF or IUI. If I'm doing IUI, I'm going to start out with just purchasing 3 vials of sperm. As much as I would absolutely love to be able to get pregnant on my first go round, I realize it may take 2, 3, or a year's worth of trying to conceive. So, you know, I just have to be mindful of that. So what I'm gonna do is buy 3 for now, because if I get pregnant within the first couple tries, I don't want to have like 12 million vials. And sperm is expensive. And when you go to sell that sperm back, it's gonna be at a discounted rate. Or I can opt to have that sperm held in storage. Okay, that wasn't my gate. I live alone, so I'm like, if my gate is being opened, honey, I'm not in the mood, and you got the wrong one because you got the right one, I will be the one to put you in your place. Anyway, so I'm gonna start out with purchasing 3 vials of sperm. And after the first one, if I'm not successful, okay. But if the second one I'm not successful, then I'll go ahead and purchase 2 more sperm vials. And my goal is to just keep 3 on hand. That way I don't ever have to worry about, yo, we need to do this and we need to do that, and the sperm's not here yet. You know, I don't want to have to worry about that. So I think I'll just buy the initial 3, and then just after 2 cycles, if we out of sperm or we use 2 and I'm not pregnant, we'll just buy 2 more. That way we can keep it going. But prayerfully, we'll be able to conceive within the first 2 to 3 rounds. Even 1. I've heard rare cases where people have gotten pregnant their first time around. So I don't know, but I just hope. I'm hoping that it takes, y'all. So yeah, that was that. If you like this video, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button so I know that you like this content so we can keep it going. Hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. That way you're notified every time I upload a new video. I will be uploading these as they come, as the appointments come, and I will also be creating a playlist that's going to be titled My Ttc Journey, and you'll be able to see the videos and everything in order. That way, if you have any questions, you can look at those. If you have any other questions right now, though, please feel free to comment them in the comment box down below, and I will do my best to answer them. If you have any answers for some of these questions or TTC advice, positive advice, trolls will be deleted. Go ahead and comment that down, because I would like to create a discussion between us all so we can all be here for one another, and also so I can do a Q&A a couple videos down the road. So you guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.